This is a first generation MacBook Pro released back in 2006, and if you have one of these computers and you're like me, this is your only computer and it's really slow, you got a dead battery, and you're thinking about throwing this computer away, I would recommend not to. I've actually found a way to upgrade this computer and make it run better than new. So let me go through how I did that. First, I'll show some benchmark scores. Here we have on the right the Xbench score, and the score shows 147.56. And then next to that is the Geekbench score, which is 2,649. And the latest laptops, their Geekbench scores are like in the 4,000s, 3 to 4,000s. But the Geekbench score does not take into account the hard drive or the graphics card. The Xbench score, I'm actually getting it almost as good a score as the latest laptops. This is because I installed a solid-state hard drive. It's the OCZ solid-state hard drive. It's called the Vertex 2 model, and it's 120 gigabytes. And here are the hard disk scores. Couple hundreds for the writes, and over really high numbers for the random writes over here. 370 for the uncached write. So, and also if you're like me and you got a dead battery in your laptop, in this laptop in particular, the processor speed will drop by 50%. It's something that Apple built into the laptop to reduce the speed of the processor by 50% if the battery's dead or not installed. So a way I found around that is this program called Coolbook. What this program does, it's actually an underclocking software that allows you to control the speed and the voltage of the processor to make the laptop run cooler. But in my situation with a dead battery, this software actually will allow the processor to run at 100% speed even if there's a dead battery or the battery's not installed. So if you use your laptop more or less like a desktop, you always have it plugged in, this is a perfect software to keep this laptop running at full speed. And these are the settings that I found were the best for the way I'm using it. So let me also run through how I upgraded this. So first of all, it was running really slow. I could barely play the latest games, StarCraft 2 or World of Warcraft, and the temperature of the laptop would go up to 100 degrees C, even with the fans running at 100%. So what I had to do is take this laptop apart, take the entire laptop apart piece by piece, and clean out all the dust which was clogging the heat sinks and the heatsink fans, and which is a pretty difficult process. And I also had to remove the thermal grease, which was crusted and was not conducting heat very well. Replace that, and also replace the hard drive with a solid state 120 gigabyte OCZ Vertex 2 hard drive. And that 120 gigabytes doesn't seem like much, but the hard drive that was in there before was 90 gigabytes, so it's actually an upgrade for me, and so I'm not complaining too much. So the total cost and I also upgraded up to Snow Leopard, the latest Mac operating system. The total cost will run you about 370 bucks. I paid a little bit extra because I tried out Windows 7. I bought the disk, didn't like it, It was pretty buggy, so and I had intended to overclock the graphics card on Windows 7 to run games, but it just wasn't working for me, so I just deleted that partition, and now I'm running completely off of the Snow Leopard. So 370 bucks is for the solid state hard drive upgrade to Snow Leopard, and the Coolbook program, which costs $10. So, and let me show you a quick restart just to show how quick this upgraded laptop restarts and also boots up. And there we go. So that was a pretty quick, relatively quick shutdown and restart. And let me show you a couple games that used to run really slow but now are running pretty quick. So here's StarCraft 2. So I also noticed that the load screens are a lot faster than they were before. Let's do a quick little demonstration. And before, the loading time was so slow that I actually had to get up and walk around for a bit and then come back to it, but now the load screens are pretty quick, a lot quicker than it was before. So in StarCraft 2, the settings are at kind of a lower setting. Actually, there's a message that says your battery charge is low because my battery's dead, but that's not a big deal. Frame rate's really nice. It only slows down when there's a ton of characters on screen, but that doesn't happen very often. You can see the 3D portraits are not too bad. So I could play the game. Before I could even barely click and move characters. Now it's relatively snappy. So that's that. Now I'm going to show World of Warcraft.
Sir, I'm tracking.
Now for World of Warcraft, the settings are at a medium setting, and it looks 10 times better than it was before. Characters load up pretty quick, all the models load up pretty fast. I mean, it's frame rates, I think, well, we got 15 to 17, which isn't too bad for a 3-year-old laptop. I think before I was getting like 5. So now I can actually move around, and it looks pretty nice. And so the reason I'm doing this is I didn't really want to buy a new computer, $1,000 or $1,200 computer just for a few games that I play. And these are the only 2 games I really play. So what I wanted to do is see if I can save this computer and make it last a little bit longer, maybe another year or so, or hopefully more. And so spending $370, and plus I experimented with Windows 7, but I didn't like that. I think it was worth the investment. So I would recommend this upgrade if this is your only computer. This first generation MacBook Pro is your only computer. I would recommend this upgrade. And also, it does require nerves of steel to open this laptop up, dismantle it piece by piece, and there are some videos you can follow on YouTube that'll instruct you how to do it, which is what I did. But it is pretty time consuming, and it is a little bit nerve-wracking because it's a pretty expensive piece of hardware to just mess up. So it's not for the faint of heart, but if you get around to it and get through cleaning out all the dust and replacing the thermal grease, replacing the hard drive, and upgrading the operating system, I think you'll be really happy with the results. And I haven't tested when I get a battery, I'll test the battery speed, or the battery performance, I'm sorry, and see how long the battery lasts. But that's not too much of an issue because I use this mainly kind of like a desktop. So that's that. And what else? So and another thing about this Mac is right now it idles around 47, 50 degrees or so, and when I'm playing games it goes up to maybe 60, 65 degrees, where before it was at 100 degrees C. Now it's 30 to 40 degrees cooler. And so and actually when the temperature goes up to around 75, 80 degrees, the processor does slow down its processing speed automatically. So especially for a laptop, it's critical to stay away from those high temperatures. And you could buy you could buy one of those laptop cooling fans that go underneath the laptop and cool the bottom of the laptop. But I've tried those, and they only cool the laptop about 5 degrees. So the main issue with cooling is the dust clogging the heatsink and the heatsink fans, and the thermal grease which is the paste between the processors and the heat sinks. So that's the main source of heat and cooling of the processor. So that's critical.